How the Porter scandal revealed the biggest truth about the Trump presidency. Unlike previous Trump-era scandals, the Rob Porter controversy has hung around the White House like the flu. In an administration where even the most astonishing controversies come and go with barely remembered speed, the durability of the Porter scandal seems like a story in itself. Why has this one lingered while others haven't? There are a few reasons. The story originally centered around Porter's girlfriend, Hope Hicks, the enigmatic Trump aide who's managed to keep her private life private and remained largely untouched by the drama that constantly swirls around her colleagues. Her carefully cultivated image as a steely operative has taken an undeniable hit. The Porter story also further undercuts John Kelly's reputation as a no-nonsense, order-instilling chief of staff. Kelly's ham-fisted handling of the situation, he reportedly knew about the blackmail-worthy allegations for months, staunchly defended Porter even after the story popped, and then peddled to his own staff a different series of events, prompted anonymous White House insiders to trash Kelly's handling of the situation to reporters. His job might now be on the line, with Trump reportedly sounding out ideas for his replacement, according to Gabriel Sherman's reporting for the Hive. Then there's Porter himself, a khaki-wearing Republican straight out of Capitol Hill Central casting. Despite his proximity to the president and senior aides, he was more or less an unknown figure until 2 weeks ago, unless you count his former boss Orrin Hatch, who embarrassingly defended Porter from what he initially called the vile attack issued by his ex-wives. But thanks to a clever and ruthless two-step by the Daily Mail, elevating Porter's profile as Hicks's boyfriend with paparazzi-style photos, only to knife him 2 days later with bombshell accusations of spousal abuse, he's now attained national infamy. Taken together, it's an irresistible new episode in Season 2, with fresh characters and new subplots thrown into the mix to tinker with the group dynamic. How did this happen? Who will survive? Sometimes in politics, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day palace intrigue. The management of the Porter story became the story during the A block of Monday's Morning Joe. They turned what would have been a one-day story, "You're fired, get your stuff out of here, that's repulsive, we will have nothing to do with you." They have managed to turn it into a 6-day story, with Donald Trump actually going out and basically saying believe the accused, and he never mentioned anything about the women who have been beaten, Joe Scarborough said, scolding the White House. If Kelly is fired, it could be a 6 or 7 or 9 or 10-day story, as well, chimed in Nicholas Confer of the New York Times. Not 8? The timeline of who knew what and when is important. And White House reporters did a terrific job trying to get answers from Sarah Huckabee Sanders at Monday's press briefing. If Kelly loses his job for standing by Porter even if he was a security risk, who replaces him? There's a thin roster of able Republican bodies willing to work inside the Trump mud pit, and that list dwindles even more when it comes to the thought of filling the chief of staff job. But it's worth pondering whether this would have been a one-day story had Porter been sacked immediately. Would a textbook crisis management strategy, "You're fired, get your stuff out of here, that's repulsive," have cleaned up the situation? Maybe for the press. Maybe for some face-saving political staffers. Maybe for Republicans on Capitol Hill desperate to talk about tax cuts instead of domestic violence. But for the rest of the country, the only character who really matters in this show is the star, Donald Trump. And Trump has repeatedly, consistently voiced support for men who have been accused of abuse and sexual misconduct: Mike Tyson, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes, Roy Moore, with little regard for the women making the claims. That's on top of Trump's dismissal of his own accusers. Even after chilling photographs of Porter's ex-wife Colby Holderness surfaced, depicting her bruises from the alleged incident, Trump predictably took the side of his former aide. "It was very sad when we heard about it, and certainly he's also very sad now," Trump told reporters during a photo spray last week. He also, as you probably know, says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that. He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent, so you have to talk to him about that. Trump has skated through any number of one-day stories, many of them self-inflicted. But the stories that will come to haunt him and his party in November are the ones that feed into the larger narratives about his administration and his personality. Trump's blithe treatment of women has been a piece of his biography for decades. Today, it's part of his political brand. Trump's suggestion that Porter's exes are lying, delivered from the Oval Office, is no longer surprising. But his constant urge to dismiss the claims of victimized women increasingly feels like a kamikaze mission against the coming Democratic hordes. It's not a coincidence that 56% of women said they strongly disapprove of Trump in a recent Quinnipiac poll, including 52% of white women, incredibly dangerous political turf for a Republican who depended on white voters in the last election. Trump's disapproval numbers are even higher among educated women and unmarried women, the cornerstones of a restive Democratic base that's already eating Republicans alive in special elections across the country. As former Trump strategist Steve Bannon told the journalist Joshua Green recently, women couldn't juxtapose a better villain than Trump. And when it comes to Porter or any of Trump's allies accused of abuse, even with the clearest of evidence, Trump can't resist playing the villain. So in the end, when we eventually look back at this scandal of abuse and mismanagement and uncontrollable impulses, we should remember it not as a story about Porter, or Kelly, or Hicks. It was never a one-day story. It's a story about Trump, and it's one of the defining tales of his presidency. Follow to get the latest news and analysis about the players in your inbox.